In the heart of Antarctica, a modest American research base is situated on an ice shelf. Climatologist Jack Hall and his small team are engrossed in a crucial task. They're drilling through ancient ice to unveil the secrets hidden in nature's depths. Interestingly, the drilling has an unexpected effect, similar to what happened to a squirrel with a nut during cartoon The Ice Age. The ice shelf cracks, creating a multi-kilometer fissure right across the base. Naturally, the scientists conclude that it's not their actions but global warming that's causing the Antarctic ice cap to melt. Later, he presents at a UN conference in New Delhi. Scientists there warn world leaders about the increasing likelihood of global warming leading to an ice age, affecting the entire planet. However, the leaders fail to understand the significance of this vague warning, lacking specific dates or outcomes. To them, the immediate economic risks are far more pressing. But after his talk, Jack meets Professor Terry Rapson, head of a Scottish laboratory, who is also researching global warming. Meanwhile, as political debates continue, the weather gradually deteriorates. First and foremost, this manifests as wet snow in Delhi, the capital of India, which is quite unusual for the region. A massive hailstorm hits Tokyo. Climate buoys equipped with sensors record a sharp and intense drop in temperature, first near Antarctica and then in various locations of the world ocean along a warm currents path. The data is sent to Professor Rapson's lab. Returning from Delhi to Washington, Jack Hall learns that his son Sam has failed his math exam, despite his remarkable talent in the exact sciences, at least in his father's opinion. Sam is generally an excellent student, he solves problems in his head, but his teachers criticize him for not writing down the solutions. Jack's ex-wife asks him to take Sam to the airport the next morning for a quiz in New York, suggesting it would be good for Sam to talk to his father, who is often away on expedition trips. Jack agrees but almost misses it due to work commitments. He ends up rescuing his son from an overcharging taxi driver. As Sam's plane encounters a massive storm cloud, it experiences severe turbulence. Meanwhile, an astronaut on the space station observes immense cyclones forming in the Earth's atmosphere. Despite these conditions, the schoolboy and his classmates safely arrive in New York, where the streets are completely gridlocked with traffic. Walking, Sam notices vast flocks of birds migrating away in the sky. Professor Rapson, after analyzing ocean data, calls Jack to warn him about the impending cataclysm. A cyclone from Japan reaches the U.S. West Coast, affecting Los Angeles first. The city faces the brunt of the storm, with several rapid tornadoes merging to form a colossal super tornado that devastates the city center. Brave reporters broadcast live from the scene, sometimes at the risk of their own lives. Helicopters capture footage of the tornado destroying the iconic Hollywood sign and leaving a trail of destruction. In Washington, scientists convene an urgent conference to address the unfolding crisis. They identify 3 global epicenters of abnormal natural phenomena: an Arctic cyclone forming over Canada, a region of extremely low pressure developing in Siberia, and a record-breaking typhoon hitting Australia. The scientists suspect that these events might be interconnected. Up to this point, the only known force capable of exerting such global and diverse influence on weather was the sun. However, no solar flares have been observed, deepening the mystery of these catastrophic weather events. Jack theorizes that the anomalies might be due to changes in the North Atlantic current. Taking into account Professor Rapson's data, this appears to be the most logical explanation: a shift in ocean currents disrupting the flow of cold and warm air. This disruption could mean that the anomalies will persist and intensify, potentially leading to a global climate change scenario. Sam and his school team triumph in their intellectual competitions, but severe weather disrupts their celebrations, leading to flight cancellations and forcing them to spend the night with an acquaintance. Hall's team uses simulations to forecast future events, revealing a dire outlook. They predict severe weather will continue, with significant climate changes anticipated within the next 6 to 8 weeks. Jack approaches the vice president, aiming to convince him of the urgent need for a mass evacuation. His efforts are met with dismissiveness and a lack of response from the politician. A severe cold cyclone is forming over Europe, particularly affecting Britain. Troops are deployed to evacuate residents and the royal family. 3 Air Force helicopters enter the cyclone's center. Due to the extreme cold, the fuel freezes. The helicopters crash, and the survivors quickly succumb to the cold, reminiscent of a T-1000 in liquid nitrogen. Sam and his friends, alarmed by news of rapidly rising sea levels, find themselves in a flooded New York City, with streets submerged knee-deep and cluttered with abandoned cars. Amidst this turmoil, they barely reach the public library as a massive tidal wave hits the city, engulfing landmarks like the Statue of Liberty and Liberty Island before sweeping across the city. The group, along with a few others, quickly seeks refuge on the upper floors of the library for safety. Jack and his team, after analyzing the new data, realized their predictions were too conservative. Instead of 8 weeks, within the next 24 hours, 3 superstorms will form across the globe, bringing unprecedented low temperatures and altering the climate. One is already over Britain, the second over Siberia, and the third is moving from Canada towards the United States. Professor Rapson comes to realize that he and his team won't be able to leave their station. The professor and his colleagues share a bottle of scotch as the generator consumes its last reserves of fuel. In the flooded streets of New York City, Sam in library finds a functional phone downstairs and contacts his father, informing him of his current location. Jack urgently warns his son about the deteriorating weather conditions. He advises staying indoors at all costs and burning whatever they can find to stay warm. Rising floodwaters disrupt their conversation. Outside, a Russian ship navigates through the city, becoming wedged between buildings. As the first snowflakes begin to fall, Jack plans a perilous journey to another city to find his son. He gathers polar expedition gear for the treacherous trip. Before departing, he is tasked with briefing the president and recommending a course of action, simple yet daunting. Evacuate those south of a certain meridian to the southern states or even Mexico. Those farther north face a grim fate, with minimal chances of surviving the impending supercyclone. Following the storm, the northern regions will be buried under snow and ice, heralding a new ice age. The president orders an immediate evacuation while Hall sets off with 2 trusted colleagues. In New York, the extreme cold transforms every external source of water into ice. Those who remain in the city attempt to escape its frozen grip, desperately seeking safer ground. Sam, heeding his father's advice, convinces some to stay in the library. However, most believe they can reach the southern states on foot and decide to leave. Consequently, almost everyone departs, leaving only a handful of students and librarians in the library. They gather books to burn, using them as fuel to stay warm and survive the relentless storm. A student manages to repair a radio and picks up a broadcast. The military is sealing the Mexican border, yet desperate crowds continue to cross the river, abandoning their belongings on the freeway in a last-ditch effort for survival. In this chaos, the library's occupants struggle to maintain hope, clinging to the possibility of rescue amid the freezing. Hall Sr.'s father braves the elements in his pickup truck, persevering until he encounters an impassable traffic jam. Forced to leave his vehicle behind, he continues the remainder of his journey on foot. However, the relentless icing and snowstorms have drastically altered the landscape. Unwittingly, the polar explorers cross the glass roof of a snow-covered shopping center. The glass, unable to support the weight of the heavily laden sleigh, shatters, causing both the sleigh and the tethered people to fall through. In a race against time, they must quickly cut and abandon the sleigh, to avoid the risk of its weight dragging everyone down with it. As Jack tries to secure himself with an ice axe to rescue his colleague, he sees that the frozen glass roof is already beginning to crack. The man cuts the rope, selflessly sacrificing himself so others might be spared from harm. The president is the last to evacuate Washington, but in a Mexican refugee camp, the vice president learns the motorcade of the nation's leader has vanished in the storm. Protocol dictates that upon the head of state's death, their duties pass to the vice president. In the library, Sam notices a classmate breathing unevenly, failing to awaken. Thanks to a book, the survivors identify the cause. The girl suffers from blood poisoning due to a scratch acquired days ago, needing urgent antibiotics. Sam resolves to find them on a stranded Russian ship, visible outside, crafting homemade snowshoes for the journey. 2 friends volunteer to accompany him. Together, they climb onto the ship, cautiously searching for the necessary medications. Upon finding the medical bay, they gather as much as they can. Suddenly, a pack of wolves appears, having escaped from a local zoo. The predators pursue the teenagers through the ship's cramped corridors, but they outwit the animals. They make it back to the library just as a severe cold snap hits. Jack Hall drags his unconscious partner as the eye of the supercyclone looms above. Suddenly, there's a moment of eerie calm, the sky clears, and the snowfall stops. Simultaneously, a stream of frigid air plunges from the upper atmosphere to the surface. Skyscrapers frost over, and the glass in high-rises shatters under the extreme cold. A flag, fluttering slowly, freezes solid in mere seconds. Witnessing this, Jack and his partner take shelter in a building's ventilation shaft, waiting out the storm. The next day, the explorers press on. They encounter dozens of frozen bodies, victims who perished attempting to flee the city. During a break, his partner asks Hall what the future holds for civilization after such a climatic upheaval. The scientist remains hopeful. Humanity survived the last ice age, we'll surely get through this too. Astronauts aboard the ISS report that the supercyclone has dissipated. The clouds have cleared, and for the first time since the crisis began, Earth's surface is visible from space. Jack and his colleague reach Manhattan, where the weather is bitterly cold but clear. The desolate landscape features islands, frozen ships, and an icy Statue of Liberty. They discover the library buried under a thick blanket of snow, its silence eerie and the building appearing uninhabited. Near a fireplace are only a few survivors: Sam, his classmates, and librarians. The acting president, formerly vice president, broadcasts to the nation from the U.S. Embassy in Mexico. He expresses gratitude to the citizens for their bravery and thanks third world countries for sheltering refugees. Rescue teams, having received their distress signal, dispatch helicopters for evacuation. As they arrive in New York, the rescuers find not only the group in the library but also many other survivors. These survivors, who have been sheltering in their homes, wave at the rescuers from the rooftops of skyscrapers. Jack Hall, his son, and their friends take one final look at the snow-covered New York City from the vantage point of the helicopter. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe for more.